is Dr. Barry, London News in Melbourne. It's June 2019. Last night, Four Corners released this programme on a mass murder that happened here a couple of years ago in Melbourne. It's a programme which you can draw your own conclusion. My personal opinion about how this progressed to the stage it did was there was too many people in charge or in command. Now, the people on the ground should be making all the decisions. They could have stopped this madman before he actually got into the city by crashing a car into him, blocking him with cars, which is a normal procedure in the police force for years. But the decision was taken away from those people on the street to management or police command. Now, if you're not on the ground, it's pretty hard to make a decision, so sometimes things can go astray. And this program will prove to you that it had and did go astray. Removing the decision from the ground is bad news. Only the people who are there can make that decision, whether to stop this guy one way or the other. Sadly, a lot of people died by this indecision. Anyway, it's up to you to make your decision about whether you agree or disagree with my philosophy. Anyway, let's have a look.
These were the last moments police had to stop a man about to commit mass murder. He deliberately drove at high speed through central Melbourne and ran over everyone he could. Six people were killed, including a 3-month-old baby and a 10-year-old girl. 27 were injured, some catastrophically.
I'd seen him drive past me with the calmest look on his face. He had a cigarette in his mouth, and that was one of the most startling things to me, that he simply looked like he was just going for his Sunday drive on the road, but he was on a pavement mowing down pedestrians with no facial expression.
His name was James Gargasoulis. He was a man with an extensive criminal record and a history of drug abuse and mental instability.
I just don't understand why they couldn't stop him. I just don't understand how he couldn't be pulled off the streets.
Systemic failures is an understatement.
Much of the evidence in this case hasn't been viewed by the public before. It reveals how multiple failings in the system led to this dangerous man being free. Tonight, Four Corners investigates how Gargasoulis reached this point, what the authorities already knew about him, and why he wasn't stopped.
Melbourne's weather, rain easing with a top today of 21. It's currently 18 degrees.
On the 20th of January 2017, Melbourne woke up after a summer storm.
For your safety, please remember to hold on.
On the morning of the incident, I did the usual routine, caught the tram to work. It's a short walk from the tram stop to the office, and I suppose I was just looking forward to getting started.
Roger Federer against Thomas Burditch tonight on Rod Laver Arena should be an absolute cracker.
My wife and I had gone to Melbourne for a few days. I had some work meetings, and also we were going to go to a session or two at the Australian Open. And she said, look, we'll walk down to Burke Street and we'll find somewhere to eat and we'll do a little bit of shopping. And that's how, it was just a totally random occurrence of how we ended up where we were.
Across town, a police drama was unfolding. A man had been stabbed by his brother outside their mother's public housing unit in Windsor. The assailant was on the run.
Man is fighting for life in hospital after a fight with his brother.
Good morning, team. Well, emergency services were called here to...
Channel 9 was filming a live cross at the stabbing scene when a guy drove into shot. You can't hear his voice, but what he's saying is, "That's me they're looking for." It was James Gargasoulis. He was known to police. He was on bail for a string of offences. He believed he'd murdered his brother and had nothing to lose. The criminal trajectory of James Gargasoulis started years before, 1,500 kilometres from Melbourne, in the dusty dugout town of Coober Pedy, where he and his younger brother Angelo were brought up by their single father.
If you were to characterise your childhood, how would you describe it?
One massive trauma. Just one big massive trauma.
How many times would you say you and Jimmy were belted over the years?
There's not even a number for that. There isn't really a number for that. Whether it be with a belt, with a branch from the front yard, or a metal bar, it could have been anything. It could have just been picking us up and just smashing our heads together at one stage. I remember that.
The boy's mother lived in Melbourne.
Sometimes she'd come up, but it was very rare. She'd come up sometimes for meant to be 2 weeks, but she'd last 2 or 3 days and she couldn't handle my dad and she'd leave.
Court documents say James Gargasoulis started showing sociopathic tendencies from an early age.
Jimmy was always like a special kid. He did special ed in school, so we always knew there was some bit of an intellectual disability with him. But when it started getting a bit noticeable and out of control was probably when he started smoking weed with his mates and started stealing my dad's cars.
Jimmy was Jimmy. He was just a eccentric, sort of crazy kid. And that's sort of why he was a target. Sort of, a lot of people would pick on him.
Why did they pick on him?
Because he was different.
At age 14, Gargasoulis smuggled explosives to school to get back at the kids who'd been picking on him.
I remember probably a week prior, he said something like, "I've had enough of this and I'm gonna do something." And then probably a week later, I remember the school was shut down. We were at school and they're talking about a bomb being brought in, and it was Jimmy with a whole heap of detonators.
Ever since that incident, people, always knew him as a little crazy.
Over the years, Gargasoulis posted a bizarre series of videos on his YouTube channel.
We're just waiting for this piece of shit combi van to go past. And I'm your host, Mr. Gargasoulis. Here we go. Got all those lines already on the fucking road,
Gargasoulis and his mates got their kicks doing donuts on the roads outside Coober Pedy.
He was never aggressive to any of his friends. He was very sleazy. He was a bit of a, he was all over. He was a sexual predator, sort of trying to get whatever he could.
Angelo describes his brother as cooked on ice and capable of extreme violence, especially towards women.
They were the most turbulent things I've ever seen. If you want to call them relationships, then it's ruined relationships for me forever. I've seen him drop a woman to the floor, drag her by her hair, kick her and punch her in the middle of the street, knock a woman unconscious completely.
In 2016, Gargasoulis brought one of his girlfriends to live in Coober Pedy.
She was a nice person, bubbly personality. She was quite nice. I mean, it confounded me why she would be with someone like him.
Later that year, as he followed his girlfriend's car along a highway, Gargasoulis deliberately crashed into her.
I take this phone call and my brother's on the phone panting, saying in a very, very, very broken voice, like, Angelo. And I'm like, yeah, Jimmy? And he's like, I think I just killed... Anyway, I'm not going to say name, but I think I just killed your friend. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, I thought that she was cheating on me, so I T-boned her and her car rolled and I'm standing next to it right now and I think she's dead. And at this very moment, I can hear whelps from her in the background. And I said, get the F off the phone now and call the ambulance, Jimmy. Are you serious?
Gargasoulis' girlfriend spent 23 days in hospital with spinal injuries. His behaviour would only worsen.
What did Jimmy Gargasoulis do for a living?
He was a drug dealer, as far as I know. Anything else, I'm not really sure.
And what did he deal?
He dealt in marijuana, ice, as far as I know, anything.
Coober Pedy local John Boy Jelsic remembers a disturbing conversation with Gargasoulis.
We were just, driving around, and he asked me, he was like, would you ever kill someone, if you needed to, like, say, over money or drugs or love or whatnot.
And what did you say?
I said no. Why would you even ask me that? He said he'd have no problem. Yeah, that's right. He wouldn't have a problem harming someone, even fatally so, if it needed to happen.
Gargasoulis moved to Melbourne in late 2016, 3 months before the Bourke Street carnage. His criminal record now ran for 20 pages. It included driving while disqualified, reckless conduct causing injury, a fray, assaulting police, resisting police, and escaping custody. At Albert Park Lake on October 31, Gargasoulis had a terrifying outburst, again accusing his girlfriend of cheating. She later told police,
"He flipped out. He punched me with his clenched right fist in my left eye. It felt like he then tried to eye gouge me."
She was 19 weeks pregnant with his child.
"I don't know how many times he punched me in the face. I was so scared. He was punching me with both fists."
Gargasoulis forced her out of the car and then left her, half naked, on the side of the road. He would later be questioned about the assault by police.
She's good, mate. She's good. No, you didn't assault her at all? No, sir. She's evil. How does she got these injuries though? How did she get the big lump to her head, the cuts to her legs and bruising to her?
Mate, she's good. That's all I can say.
You're saying self-inflicted to make you look better?
She knows more people than me. Look who she is.
No one was safe from James Gargasoulis. 3 weeks after the assault of his girlfriend, he kidnapped his brother's friend.
I called my brother. I said, what are you doing? And he goes, your friend's a dog. He's working with the government to fucking murder me, to get me locked up. Isn't it? I'm like, and I can hear my friend in the background, your brother's a fucking psychopath.
When Angelo confronted his brother, Gargasoulis hit him with a gun.
He actually then whacked me in the face with it, and he went to go pull the trigger, and I just at that point I was like, oh well, this is so messed up.
After Gargasoulis threw a tyre iron, which smashed a taxi window, Angelo spoke to police at the scene.
I'm like, you have to find this guy. He's fucking ruthless. Like, this is not just a matter of my safety or whoever he hates safety. It's gonna be, and it has been, random people.
That's what you said to the officer?
Yeah, I said that to the police officer. I was
random
like,
people?
I said it's gonna be, like, it's a concern for everybody. He's him, because I said he's got no regard whatsoever for the law, none at all.
Police chased Gargasoulis that night, sirens blaring, but he sped off onto the wrong side of a major Melbourne road, forcing the police to give up the pursuit. Just before Christmas, police received another warning about Gargasoulis after he picked up a street sex worker and told her he had a gun. She spoke to Four Corners anonymously.
He was driving very erratically, almost hit a car, almost hit a tree as he swung into a side street. He cut into traffic, just driving like an absolute maniac. And that's when I realised it was probably ice that he was on, and my safety was at risk. He'd boasted to me that he had run from the police the night before on 3 occasions, that they had engaged in a chase on 3 occasions. And he said each time he was able to get away because he knew if he drove the wrong side of the street or aimed at people, they had to disengage the pursuit.
She made an excuse to get out of his car, took down his licence plate and dialed 000. A sergeant was sent out to see her, but no action was taken.
What is your full name and address?
James George Gargasoulis.
On January 14, 2017, Gargasoulis was arrested. It was 6 days before Bourke Street. At St Kilda Police Station, Gargasoulis joked around as police listed the many crimes he was to be charged with.
James.
You guys make a good team.
Maybe. James, you're going to be charged with, wait for it, conduct endangering life and serious injury, dangerous and careless driving, failing to stop a motor vehicle when requested, driving on the wrong side of the road, disqualified driving, willful damage, theft of motor vehicle, intentionally and recklessly cause injury, unlawful assaults.
He was asked about his dangerous driving.
What side of the road did you drive on?
A little bit of the wrong side of the road.
On St Kilda Road, just a little bit?
Just a little bit.
Why did you drive onto the wrong side of the road and take off at a fast rate of speed?
I was heading to my mum's house.
Why was it safe? Can you just tell me in your own words?
What if I killed myself or a pedestrian? Yes, sir. But it wasn't about that. I felt like the police were against me.
One of the police questioning him that night was Detective Senior Constable Murray Gentner, a local cop he'd met before.
James, do you agree the time is 6:47 p.m?
Yes. It is so cute. The middle one. Yeah.
His responses to questions often sounded paranoid and delusional.
Do you want me to be straight up, Mr. Jetner?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I've been deceived by some people, which are at the lower point of life.
Yep.
And they've told me that Mr. Jetner is after me to, get me killed. Which
they're saying that I wanted to get you killed.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and you were trying to kill me. Secretly.
And we're established that's not true, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Yep.
Yes. Secretly kill me so you can use others to get to me.
Yep.
I was told many other things, you know what I mean? Just bullshit.
Yeah.
Gargasoulis was charged with 23 offences. Because it was after hours, a volunteer bail justice was called. Victoria is the only state that uses volunteers without legal qualifications to hear bail applications. This one was a teacher. Police opposed bail, but the bail justice disagreed.
I still, to this day, don't know how he got bail, knowing what he did. It wasn't allegations. There was multiple witnesses. There was camera footage. There's repeat offending. There's so much to lock him up away. Like, it's like, why wait for him? Why? It could have saved so much lives. It could have saved so much drama.
Four Corners has obtained the statement of the bail justice. He said the police officers didn't discuss Gargasoulis's escalating mental health problems and failed to provide his 20-page criminal history.
I am very angry that this information was not provided to me by the police in opposing bail. Being aware of such an extensive history, I would have refused bail without question.
The bail justice also said he observed a warm, jovial rapport between police and Gargasoulis. He said Gargasoulis implied he was a police informer and Gentner indicated that there was indeed an understanding. The police contradict some of the account of the bail justice and say they were shocked bail was granted. Certain that Gargasoulis would reoffend, Detective Murray Gentner emailed his bosses.
I intend on doing some work on him this week to ensure he is remanded before Friday the 20th of January, which is his court date.
2 days before Burke Street, Detective Gentner again raised concerns with his superiors, recommending a discreet probe into the bail justice. Angelo Gargasoulis was horrified when his brother was released.
He rocked up and I went white in the face and I literally didn't know what to do. And he's like, no one can hold me in behind bars kind of attitude.
On the 18th of January, 2 days before Burke Street, Gargasoulis went to St Francis Catholic Church in central Melbourne. Father Graham Duro heard shouting from below his window.
And there was a man down there just near the front door of the monastery who, once he spotted me, said that he wanted to speak to me. And he said he wanted to talk to a priest.
Father Duro went to meet an agitated Gargasoulis who was captured on this CCTV.
He said, I really want to talk to you about a revelation I've had from God. The world's going to end in a month's time, or sometime next month.
How would you describe him, his demeanour?
His eyes were quite piercing, and he did say at some stage to me, look into my eyes when I speak to you. I turned to go back into the monastery, and he made a comment, I can't quite recall the exact words, but I think it was something along the line of, look at you, you're a disgrace, you're the devil.
Gargasoulis entered the church and began to rant from the pulpit about terrorists. He was filmed by a security guard as the organist played on.
Where's this boat? Is it for real? Where the hell are you, mate? Get off there, will you? For goodness sake, you don't know where you're standing.
You know, I have the God-given gift to even put you down and stand where you sit.
Unbelievable.
You do not go against someone who's preaching, or not even preaching, but telling the truth. Because I know everything that's happening. Everything.
The security guard called police.
He was interviewed by 2 police out in the yard, and at some stage they went to check in, I think, do a check on him. And once he heard his name mentioned, he just dropped a paper that he was carrying and took off across the yard.
When police ran a name check, they were told Gargasoulis was not wanted for any outstanding warrants, and so decided he was not a risk. They did not pursue him. But only 4 hours later, police were called again, this time from the unit block where Gargasoulis' mother lived. The CCTV shows Gargasoulis arriving at the apartment of his mother's then-boyfriend, Gavin Wilson.
My brother asked him for his car keys, and then all of a sudden started burning a Bible in front of him when he said no.
Gargasoulis attacked Wilson with the burning Bible.
And then all of a sudden smashes his face with the Bible, apparently, and then tried to gouge his eyes out.
Before police could arrive, Gargasoulis sped off in Gavin Wilson's maroon Commodore. It was the car he would ultimately drive all the way to Burke Street. That night, Gargasoulis rang 000 repeatedly.
Hello, caller. What address do you need police to attend?
I don't need an address. I want to make a state emergency a worldwide emergency that there's a comet in the sky and that NASA should take a look at that because it's going to hit the Earth.
Gargasoulis was regularly using large quantities of ice. He was in the grip of a drug-induced psychosis.
They're trying to kill me so my brother can rule the world after this is fucking hit. And then all the rich people will go underground and blah, blah, blah. So fucking work that out, you dumb fuck. Well, you're not dumb. You need to fucking understand what the fuck is really going on. Why do you think the world is fucked up? Why do you think there's all lies and deceiving? Now, I'll be dead after this, hopefully not.
Why will you be dead, James?
Why? Because the comet will take me out because I have no safety.
The following night, on January 19, CCTV captured Gargasoulis in the same car going through a McDonald's drive-through at St Kilda. He brought his meal over to the Dogs Bar across the road, but was asked to leave.
I just heard a load of commotion. This was about 12:30, I think. A load of commotion, people screaming, glasses breaking, tables falling over. And obviously I turned around in shock, and I didn't really actually see him. All I just saw was the carnage. So he basically scraped his arm along the back of the fence, so he was on the outside of the fence, scraped it along and knocked everybody over, and all the glass and wine and whatever that were on the tables. So 3 tables went over, plus all the people with it. People had glass in their mouth, down their dresses, in their shoes, it was everywhere. He's standing in the middle of the road like this, just smirking at us and laughing. Just the look on his face, he just had a look of invincibility. To me, it was like, what is this madman doing? What is going on in this world? He just looked crazy.
Yet again, police were called, but staff said they didn't come.
He's out of control, but I just don't understand why they couldn't stop him. I just don't understand how he couldn't be pulled off the streets.
It stormed in Melbourne that night. Gargasoulis continued his rampage. arriving at his mother's apartment after 1 a.m. Also with Gargasoulis that night was his new girlfriend.
And so she, in the background, walking behind him, she was like, your brother's like, you know, oh God, like...
Cooked.
Yeah. So, and then he started asking me questions about how much I knew about the comet that's coming to hit Earth and how much I knew about the bunkers and where they are and why am I not telling him where they are? Why, if I don't tell him, then we're all going to die.
Just after 2 a.m, Gargasoulis and his brother left the apartment. As they reached the gate, James Gargasoulis pulled out a large kitchen knife.
They saw my brother coming and then basically just go at it at me, and I remember losing consciousness and coming to from losing consciousness, and my head was against the front of the car tyre and the horn was just going off like crazy.
Angelo tried to run, but his brother then stabbed him right through his chest.
I realised my lung has been stabbed, and at this point I didn't know the knife had gone right through, but my lung was making like a blow-off kind of sound, like it was like that every time I took a breath. And then I remember waking up and my brother was standing over me. My hand and my arm was hanging out in limbs, hanging out everywhere. And so he picked up the knife again and just grabbed me by the scruff of the hair and just went at it like a pineapple.
For the fourth time in 9 hours, police were called. James Gargasoulis fled the scene, evading arriving police. Turning up to see friends that night, he told them, "Someone is following me, and if I see them, I will mow them down. I'm going to do something drastic, take everyone out. They can suffer the consequences. Watch me, you'll see me tonight on the news." At 4:30 a.m, a St Kilda police sergeant urgently requested help from the Critical Incident Response Team, emphasising how dangerous Gargasoulis was. But he says the team refused to attend, as the case did not fit their criteria for a critical incident.
I expressed my dismay to the response I received. I was told there was nothing we could do about it.
If this isn't a critical incident in the making, I don't know what is. Just get out there and do it. Just go and get the job done, you know? But we've got people shackled by idiotic policy and the fear that they might make the wrong call and limit or destroy their career. Well, it's supposed to be about policing, and the number one priority for policing is the preservation of human life.
On the morning of January 20, Gargasoulis was due to face court. His brother Angelo was fighting for his life in an induced coma when James Gargasoulis drove up behind the Channel 9 crew.
When police arrived, the two men dispersed, but a short time later, a 26-year-old man was driven to the Alfred Hospital.
Three hours later, Gargasoulis was driving through South Melbourne when he realised police were following him. He had kidnapped his girlfriend. She begged him to stop. Gargasoulis pulled over, but as the officers got out of their car, he accelerated rapidly. He told his girlfriend, "If they catch up to me, I'm going to run down everyone in the city." 7 minutes later, a critical incident response team caught up with Gargasoulis. The police approached his car with firearms drawn. Gargasoulis pushed his girlfriend out onto the road. But he escaped again. In keeping with Victoria Police pursuits policy, a local sergeant ordered members not to chase or intercept his car and to maintain covert observations from a safe distance.
I think James Gargasoulis and subsequent incidents like that Burke Street tragedy are the inevitable result of 20 years of pushing decision-making from the geographical location of the incident that's occurring in front of people who are witnessing it, all the way up to someone in an office somewhere else, miles away from where it's happening.
The policies have been put into place with a great deal of thought or experience or advice from courts or commissions of inquiry or coroners. And so it's not as if people in administration or people in roles like mine sit there and think, how can we actually stuff up the role being done by police officers on the street? You're trying to take into account, in terms of policies and decision-making, how you can best protect them.
By midday, Detective Senior Constable Murray Gentner was on Gargasoulis' tail. Gentner sent him a text message. James, you have to call me now, bro. We don't have time. Gargasoulis' reply was rambling and menacing. It's not looking good. I either die in jail or die trying to run from the boys. Now listen, I'm telling you, I am the saviour, and there's a comet, and I know how to save everything and everyone, but these guys are pretty good at making me look like I'm the devil. After again losing his police tail, Gargasoulis stopped at a building site in suburban Yarraville.
He was quite tall. He was about 6'3" and seemed to be reasonably coherent in what he was saying. It was just that what he was saying made no sense.
Contractor Trent Schmidt dialed 000.
Emergency services. 846822. Thank you, Telstra. Hello, where do you need the police?
In Drew Street in Yarraville, there's a guy, he's sitting in a car and we were doing some work there. He's come out, he's babbling on about the end of the world and...
Right, so he's possible mental health or he's on drugs?
Either or.
What he was saying probably was more chilling because of the fact that he was saying it in a way that seemed to be considered. And he repeated, the fact that the sun, to look at the sun, and that sun, that red thing you see in the sky, that's actually a comet. You think it's the sun, but it's not. It's a government conspiracy. They've got a bunker under the State Library, and I'm going to be the saviour, and I've been told to come and save the world. And he did mention that we'd see him on the news that night.
What does he look like?
He actually looks a bit like Nick Kyrgios. He looks probably mid-20s, early 30s.
I'll let the police know. We'll get someone there as soon as possible.
The police helicopter was sent, but before officers on the ground could arrive to intercept him, Gargasoulis sped away again.
The streets only got one access in and one access out. It's opposite a park, and they perhaps could have prevented the car from moving outside of that immediate area. With 2 vehicles would have been sufficient. But as I said, at the time, we had no way of knowing what would unfold.
Gargasoulis drove into the CBD, continuing to text with Detective Murray Gentner. I'm not talking lies. This is real. I can tell the future, my friend. They will not win because I have the knowledge. Over an hour and 19 minutes, the detective and the fugitive texted 33 times, with Gentner repeatedly asking him to pull over. At 1:27, Murray Gentner texted, "Don't do this."
I saw a helicopter overhead and I heard this strange screeching sound. And I walked around the corner and saw a Burgundy Commodore just doing burnouts. And he just kept driving around in circles. He was waving outside the window, screaming stuff out. There was people sort of like spurring him on, and there was a couple of kids ran up to him and sort of swung a baseball bat. I took my phone out and started filming him. I noticed that there was unmarked cars sort of suddenly when there's 3 or 4 Commodores hanging around. That's when I noticed that there was, oh, OK, the police are here. I didn't think it was anything sinister. I didn't think it was anything... I just thought it was fairly innocuous.
In one of the cars was Murray Gentner. At 1:32, he sent Gargasoulis one last text message. Stop. But he didn't. Gargasoulis kept driving down Swanston Street with police following. He picked up pace and mounted the footpath. Then screeched around the corner into Burke Street.
And there's this thud, thud, thud sound. And in my vision comes James Gargasoulis, and he's got this calm, surreal look on his face. He's got his 2 hands on the steering wheel, his cigarette, either it's just been lit or it's unlit and it's drooping out of his mouth. And he's just expressionless as he hits these people and continues up the hill.
And all of a sudden there was a chopper in the air. There were 2 police cars screaming down the middle of Burke Street where the trams run, and realised this was something bad was happening. This was terrible. I saw one person fly off the bonnet of the car and then realised there was going to be a lot of casualties.
The first thing wasn't something I saw, it was just the noise. It sounded like a clattering, I suppose. So at that stage, I turned around to look behind me and saw a car on the footpath coming towards us really, really quickly. I don't remember feeling the impact. I remember getting up from the ground afterwards, but it kind of collected me in my hip, and kind of threw me to the side.
Former Victoria Police Commissioner Christine Nixon had just left a lunch when she narrowly avoided being hit.
The car kept going, and I looked and just saw it on the footpath, continue to drive down Burke Street on the footpath, and then very quickly afterwards I heard a shot.
Gargasoulis was on Burke Street for 55 seconds. He hit 33 people before he was tasered and shot by police.
When I got up, there was just carnage. There were other people who'd been hit, strewn on the ground. And all that was left in that section of Burke Street along the way back to work was just debris and bodies.
What I saw also on the corner was a pram, on the corner of Burke and William Street, and I remember thinking, I hope there's not a baby in that. And so I went up to the pram. This young woman said to me, you know, where's my baby? And I said, your baby's not here.
The panicking woman was the baby's nanny. The baby was Zachary Matthew Bryant. He was 3 months old. He was the youngest of the 6 people Gargasoulis murdered. In February, Gargasoulis was sentenced to life in prison, where he was diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Slowly over time, you come to accept what happened, but I think it's one of those things you will never forget. You know, the day you die, you will never forget what happened.
A coronial inquest will begin later this year. It will investigate what Victoria Police knew about Gargasoulis and how it dealt with him in the lead-up to the incident. The inquest will also focus on how this man was out on bail.
I think the police did as best they possibly could. They will question everything in their mind. They will wake up at night and say, could I have, should I have, how could I have done things differently?
He wasn't stopped, and he was allowed to travel from the suburbs into the centre of our capital city without being stopped. And we now know the outcome of that. Now, that's certainly not the fault of any individual police officer who was involved in that operation on the day. It's a culmination of bad policy, remoteness of decision making, and we've now all got to live with that.
Hi, now that you've seen that fantastic program by ABC Four Corners, I'd like to thank you for watching. Dr. Barry signing off, and thanks to all my new subscribers and hopefully new ones. I'm not getting paid for it, it's just a hobby and I like to spread the word. Thanks for watching again. Bye from now. Thanks.